Okay, kids, here we go. So we're back now. We're going to be working on a neck. Remember, we had our necks that we glued up that were 3 pieces with our tenon on it. So now we're going to prepare these a little bit further. We're going to get our truss rods put into them. So we're going to route that. But before I can route that, I'm going to plane these surfaces. The main part of the neck we're going to plane, and then we're going to do the angle on the headstock here. And I want to show you how this is going to work. So this is one of my 14 fret neck with my 25/4 scale length on it. So here's my 25/4 board. Let me get a pencil. This is going to go on the big dreadnought, the slope shoulder dreadnought. It's going to be a full 14 frets to the body. This is where your neck's going to meet the body. Again, there's our tenon, and there's our shoulders that are going to rest into the body, be pulled in with the bolts. This is our 25/4 scale length fretboard, already slotted and radiused. This gets cut off here. This little piece, don't think about it. So when I put my 14th fret at the body here, then I can see where my nut's supposed to go right here. So now what happens with this stuff, you've got room to maneuver these, to get your nut slot or your nut shelf be what you want it to be. So if I plane down here, okay, if I'm planing down, then I'm lengthening where the fingerboard sits. But if that's too long to accept my fingerboard, then when I plane down on my headstock at this angle, then that actually takes it back the other way. Does that make sense? So this line, in theory, is where my nuts, the end of my fingerboard, and where my nut's going to sit. But I can push this line this way or this way, depending on which surface I plane. So first of all, I got to clean this surface up, get rid of all the glue joints. So I'm going to plane this down first. And that's going to push this line that way. But then I'm going to come back and plane this surface and push the line back the other way. So you want to be cognizant of what fingerboard you're gluing onto what neck and where everything's going to sit. Again, here's my 14th fret. It's going to be right here at the body, which is where the heel butts up. There's my line. Again, that part gets gone there. There's my line, because that's this is the first fret. That's where my nut's going to sit. So first thing I'm going to do is put this in my vise. And I'm going to plane this flat. I've got this nice, they're called a low angle jack plane. And this takes a nice big swipe across here. So I'm just about where I want to be. That stuff doesn't bother me much there. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to sight that. Yes, nice and flat. I'm looking down it. Okay, now I'm going to come back. And here's my 14th fret. There's where it meets the body. And then up here at the nut, I'm going to mark where my end of my fingerboard's going to hit. So there it is, 14th fret at the body. That makes the end of the fingerboard here, because that gets cut off. And now that's my shelf. Now, a good idea is to take a straight edge. In theory, those two edges are straight, and by drawing that line there, then I can now start planing this down, and that brings that back to that line. Did you see that? So there's my line from where the end of the fingerboard will be, 14 frets, 25/4. There's the end of my fingerboard. Now I'm going to start planing this down. That'll move this line back this way. Now here I'm going to take my number 4 plane for this smaller area. Now see, there's my line, and I can see where I'm just about there. This is all now smooth. I got one little spot there, but it's right where I want to be. So I'm going to take a little more off of this side. This one's a little closer. Oh, that looks good, actually. I went a little far. So there you go. There's where my nut will sit, right in there. And that all looks good. So here's my fingerboard. It's going to sit right to there. And I'm going to put my overlay on that. I'm going to glue some ears onto the top of this, put an overlay on that, and then there's my shelf for my nut. Okay, so that all looks good. It's nice and straight, and that's nice and square. And that's all just done really quickly with a nice couple of hand planes and nice sharp blades in the plane. Learn to sharpen your plane blades. It'll be a joy. They're such fun tools to work with. Alrighty, so let's try another one. Alrighty, so now this is going to be a 13th fret, and it's going to be a 24/9. So here's my 13th fret. I don't know if you can see that, but and that's going to sit at the body. So that's there. So this has quite a bit to come back this way, but here's going to be the end of my fingerboard, right there. Again, I'm going to plane this down, so that's going to start pushing that line even further, but then I'll be able to bring that back this way. But just to show you where it's at, that's the first mark. Feels pretty good. Actually, see, that's not, well, it's not too bad. Actually, that side's a little tall yet, and I got a little fuzziness there. So I'll take some more of that off. Take a big chip out of there. So I can put a straight edge on there. That looks good. Maybe a little hump in the middle there. Let's do a little bit on that. Maybe take our number 4 here. Hit the middle a little bit. Looks good. Maybe one more of these. Nice. Okay, now I'm going to put my fingerboard back on there to show where I'm at. Again, this is my 24 9, 13 frets to the body. There's my 13th fret. There's my body. So here's where my shelf has to go. So I've got to take this down quite a bit. Again, I can change this angle a little bit too. So since this has fairly far to go here, I'm going to start taking some of this off, push that line back, and then flatten all that. And again, I've got plenty. By the time you glue your fingerboard on, you got plenty of meat here for everything to get thinned down if you laid these out the way we talked about earlier. So here we go. Looking pretty good. I'm just about that far away, which isn't bad at all. There we go. Looks pretty good. My shelf's going to be, and again, I can maneuver this a little bit as I get to it. Again, if that goes there, then got a nice flat surface. So there you go. That's how you determine what this length can be from the layout we did with our 3 pieces glued up. Once you know how many frets to the body, you just need to know where your nut starts, and you can work this line forwards and backwards within the context of these blanks. Again, I cut them. I've got them set up for, I've got templates for 12 fret, 13 fret, 14 frets. But within that, I know I've got room then to push these guys back and forth one way or the other. So there you go. That's 2 of those done. I'm going to plane the next one, and then we'll route those slots for the truss rod. Okay, here's another way you can approach leveling the, making a flat surface for your fingerboard to get glued to. One is you can use your belt sander. Now this is the 36-inch belt, so fingerboard area doesn't sit flat on the plenum here. You've got your roller, so you have to keep this in motion very fast. If you're worried about this area and you're thinking about it, over here you're going to get around from your roller. So just be aware, if you've got the larger, I think it's the 48 inch version, this will just fit right on there and flatten that really well. But in this case, you would just keep it going. I'll do just a little bit of this. So you'd have it here, and you're just going to just keep it in motion, and you're going to get a nice flat surface there. And again, put your straight edge on it and check everything. That looks pretty good. Now if I want to move my line back again, then I can put this on here this way. By taking that down, that's going to move my line, so I can always get my shelf, the shelf for the nut, right where I want it. By the way, sometimes people like Martin guitars, you probably heard of them, they actually put their nut on the downhill side of the angle of the headstock. In other words, they don't leave a flat shelf at the end of their fingerboard. The end of the fingerboard goes right to that joint, and then when they cut the bottom of their nut, they make it be slanted, so it's actually in line with this part of the, it sits on this part of the headstock, not on this part of where the fingerboard sits. So you've got options there. If you thought you went a little too far, you can bring your fingerboard right up to that edge and just build your nut with a angle on the bottom of it. So that's another way that you can flatten your fingerboard and your headstock angle. Alrighty, here's another way to flatten this surface. If you remember, pulled out our bench top jointer once before, and this is a great tool for keeping this square and flattening fingerboard area. So this obviously, again, it's a flat surface with the blade, and you're going to be able to put a really nice edge surface on your necks if you have such, a joiner of some sort in your shop. So I'll just run a piece through here just to look at this. There we go. So that does just a great job right there. Now, to do this part of the headstock is a little bit tricky on this machine. If you come at it this way, and because our grain runs straight here, we cut across it, so if we run it this way, our blade's going right into our grain, and that's just really not good. It's really kind of probably dangerous, if anything. Now you can turn it over this way and come back through, and that works fine. But in this case, I would go back to my number 4 plane, and again, I'll find my mark here and work with my hand plane to match that up if I'm using this machine. So that would be a way to use both tools. This is much less critical of a surface here, so I can do this by hand and get it back where I want it. But this is a great machine for getting a nice flat surface. Okay, so after I've run my necks through here, and I'm very happy with this to get this surface flat for gluing our fingerboard onto, then I will often get out this piece of glass that I have with the sandpaper on it, and then I'll just sand this a little bit just to smooth everything up. So that gives me a nice surface to glue my fingerboard to. So there you have it. We have our nice flat surfaces. Also, if you didn't have any other tools and you hand planed your surface and you wanted to feel like you wanted to true that up, you just come here onto your, again, a nice big thick piece of glass with some sandpaper on it. It's a really true surface, and you can just work this and get a nice flat surface on your fingerboard that way. Also, then you can do your headstock as well. So there's several different ways: the hand plane, the benchtop joiner, and here's some sandpaper on a big piece of glass. All of those things will allow you to get a nice flat surface on the neck where your fingerboard's going to get glued to. So now I'm going to reset up and we're going to route our slot for the truss rod. So that's the next thing. Okay, kids, if you like and use or find these videos interesting, educational, informative, or maybe just entertaining because you're up late at night, we'd love to have you support us. There's a few ways you can do that. One is click the subscribe button below. That helps YouTube know what we're doing and that we're serious about this. Also, you can hit that bell icon, which tells you when the next videos are coming out. We're going to try and get at least one out a week now that we're up and running here. Also, a good way to support us is become a patron over at our Patreon account. And again, there's a link below for that. Patreon's a cool way that you can sign up and give, $5 a month or $10 or whatever you feel is worth it. If you're using these videos to actually build a guitar and find it interesting and fun, please support us through Patreon. That's I wish I could do this completely for free, but it takes money and time away from my other regular job. So it's a big undertaking, and any support you could send this way is great. So it's all been very fun so far for me, and I hope you guys are having fun at this as well. And we greatly appreciate all your support. So thanks.